Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Product Led Podcast. Today, we have an awesome guest. He has taken his company, Jeeva AI, from 0 to 5 million ARR in less than 8 months. So this is a crazy story, how quickly he's been able to pivot his failed startup to finding this success, spending about 2 months building the product to going through where now he's adding about 1 million annually recurring revenue every single month. This is absolutely wild. I think you'll love this episode, especially for the product-led founders here that don't spend enough time on the go-to-market side of their business. You will see, like, out of the 8 months, he spent 2 months really just focusing on getting the product right and solving a problem that was really, really unique to him with the AI. And then he really made sure that the product was self-serve, easy to use. And then only recently they launched this PLG motion, which has been taking off as well. So this is a great way of just thinking about how do you scale much faster. So that's what you're going to get out of this episode. And so I want to make sure that you can just learn everything you can from Gaurav, who's the founder and CEO of Jeeva AI. So enjoy the episode. What's your background, man? Like, what kind of got you into this latest startup that's kicking butt?
Yeah, totally. So Wes, my background is I come from New Delhi originally. I'm in San Francisco now, but come from New Delhi. I grew up in a very blue collar family. I lost my dad to cancer when I was 2, and mom washed utensils door to door. So grew up very poor, but I was like a nerdy kid. I loved coding, so I started programming at 10. Built my first video game at 12, and then I got really lucky. I had a co-founder who basically had parents who were radiologists. And I had no idea about healthcare or even like that I'll start a company. But she was helping her parents, and I was a programmer. So I started coding with her, and it became a startup. And that was our first company. We ran it for almost 7 years, completely bootstrapped. We were doing really cool stuff. We were basically doing machine learning for radiologists to automate reporting. But then we did a bunch of applications of ML. So everything from even predicting cancers using ultrasound machines. So we built a lot of different applications, but for radiologists at multiple hospitals, one of the fastest growing applications. And we were literally pushing CDs. Like we would write a software CD that would go in an ultrasound machine. It was wild times, right, where we live now. But it was great. It was awesome. We grew a bunch of revenue. We had like 100 people by the end, and we were able to sell the company. I came here and I started this new company, but as a very different idea. We became so good at collecting data, Wes. We were doing like terabytes of data. So we had this idea that we'll build this universal customer application layer that you can just install it, and it would be like this universal data platform that can talk to Snowflake, Salesforce, understand your business, and then you can use it to design agents. You can use it to do churn prediction. It was like a really vague but large idea. So we kind of narrowed it down to like churn prediction, upsell, cross-sell prediction for customers. But it was just really hard to do because data is everywhere, and we realized that the unstructuredness of it makes it really hard to understand. So that became like a big problem. And this was pre-LLMs. So we were like so heavily built on these old school like SageMaker machine learning models.
So now it probably would be a lot more realistic.
Doable. Yeah, it would be like a much more interesting idea and probably doable, which is unfortunate. But we worked so hard, and then at like late last year, we decided to basically shut the company. So we went back to our board and said that it's not working. They asked me like, what are you going to do next? And I said, look, I've always been the first SDR, the first salesperson for all like a couple of my startups. And we built this application internally. We call it Jeeva AI, which is we're using to do agent searches, crawling the web, finding the right leads, and doing outreach. And it's working really well. So we decided to pivot, and the board was like, we love you. You should keep going. So January was like our first customer, and now we're 5 million in ARR. Obviously not the fastest growing because there are companies that are doing like 100 million in a year, but right, but 0 to 5 million.
Well, like 5 million in 8 months though.
Yeah, totally. So 5 million in a few months. And we also have a PLG motion now. So we literally launched PLG after the webinar. We did a product hunt launch last week. We got 10,000 plus users. We have close to 100,000 in ARR just from PLG now. So super excited about that.
So you're at 10,000 ARR for PLG?
Yeah, 100,000. So 10,000.
Okay, 100,000. Nice.
Crazy, right? It's like 2 weeks. It's wild. Like
yeah, and I guess that's mostly driven from the product hunt.
Product hunt, yeah, everything from product hunt, yeah, for us.
No, that's awesome. And so take me through that journey, the 8 months. I always like on the podcast too, is like kind of mapping out like, okay, how did that start? So at the very beginning, you were like, okay, I'm the SDR first person for that for every company. But then the product itself is like, if I understand what Jeeva does
Yeah,
correctly, like I know on your website you do like smarter AI sales agents.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just make it easy to connect with the right people. Is there
yeah.
anything else there that you would
Talk
kind of
about.
say is like, hey, this is really what we do?
Oh yeah, sure. No, no, absolutely. Yeah, I should have talked about that. But whereas like Sam Altman has this quote which I love, and he says this that at some point every job becomes a sales job, and so I'm really excited about that, and I truly believe that. And what we're trying to do is make salespeople and sales teams much better with AI. But actually, fundamentally, I know like VCs hate to hear this, which is like, oh, the product can be used by anyone. But it's kind of like some of these code gen platforms. We are wanting to be the next Lovable or Cursor or Windsurf, but for sales. And what we're saying is anyone can use it to become good at sales. And in the short of it, what we are trying to do is use agents to automate some of the manual, repetitive tasks of selling. And what that includes is there's like a few things that happen no matter what you're selling, right? Even if you're selling door to door, or you're selling using a Zoom agent, you're selling $100,000 software or like a 3,000 ACV or 300 ACV deal. There's a few fundamentals. One is like you have to find leads. It's as simple as that.
Totally.
So lead discovery is very important. And what we do is, Wes, and going back to the chat interface, you can go in and say, hey, I want to find VPs of sales in San Francisco and Los Angeles who work in finance. They work in companies that are more than $1 billion. Make sure that they work for companies that are SOC 2 compliant and use Salesforce system. This is a very complex query. It's very bad for something like a ZoomInfo or a Clay or a Lucia or some traditional platform. But it's a really easy query for the agents because they can design and describe, okay, I got to crawl the internet. I got to find for this
Yeah,
first.
they
Then
could
I got
use
to find.
like built with or some other
That's exactly
extension
right.
and
Yeah,
like
exactly
understand,
right. So
oh
you can
yeah, they have Salesforce installed. Yeah.
spot on. So you can use APIs from multiple different vendors. It can understand where to call, what to call, Google search, index the data, and build an awesome lead list for you. So that's one part of the platform. The second part after that is can you enrich it? Can you find work emails? Can you find cell phones? Can you find anything you want to find? As an example, I can go and build a list and then say, okay, now go, let's say if I find all local businesses. So let's say if I'm a software provider to local restaurants, then I can say, build me a list of 500 Indian restaurants in Los Angeles. And then once I do that, go scrape their website and find emails that are associated and cell phones that are on the website that I can call. So then it can go in, it can understand, I got to crawl this info, I got to find it here. I'm going to put it back and enrich a list for you. So you can kind of find very unique data sets by crawling, by looking at open source web, by looking at APIs that we help you provide. The third aspect to that is then automations. Now I have this, can I do a multi-channel sequence so I can send emails, LinkedIn messages. We can also do text messages and WhatsApp that we added. But the premise is not mass scale blasting and spamming. It's very deep research. So best if I'm reaching out to anyone, the AI would go and read their bio, will watch their webinars. If I was reaching out to you, I'll look at their webinars, podcasts you've done, try to find some unique angles, unique pitch, and then pitch it to you. But we will only send it as a draft to the user's inbox. So as a sales rep, I'll wake up to drafts in my inbox. I have to proofread them, edit, and send. That's how we've designed it. So we don't promote mass spamming. We promote sending 50 very personalized messages, but 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it compounds. So that's the aspect. The last aspect to our platform is we have these like note takers and email assistants that follow you around. So they would be in your calendar, they would be in your email, they would also be in your Salesforce. So imagine you wake up, it will auto record all calls, we'll send you summaries. We can even draft emails as like follow ups, like, hey, John, hey, Wes, it was a great conversation. Here's action items from me. Here's for you. Here's some summary. We will auto draft and respond to each email. These are just value add features, but the premise is can we help you be a better seller, build pipeline, and can we help you be a better seller to close deals? So that's the product in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I like the end-to-end nature of it because it goes from like the part of, okay, who do we reach out to? Who do we enrich? But then also it's not I think there was this post today I was reading about Zapier. They're like, we have, the fully autonomous AI agent side of the business. And then we have the more manual one, but it's still like AI powered. And they're like, the more manual one with the human in the loop is like kicking butt versus the other version. And it's because there is core processes in a business. You're like, you do kind of want to understand that. And especially for us, where it's like, a client relationship could be, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. It's like, it's probably worth having a quick look on that message of like, hey, how's it going? And not saying anything too crazy. So I love that. Now, for this approach, I know you said January you kicked this off. Was this like, hey, we already have this solidified, or did you just like, hey, we're just going to start with like finding leads, make that better, create the AI agent around that? How did you go from, 0 to 1 on the product side? Because I'm sure a lot of people are kind of thinking like, yeah, that's a lot to bite off right away, and that would be hard to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Wes. And I think going back to our conversation we were having right before we were recording this, right? It was all about the chat UI for us because we had built this internally and it was kind of like Zapier. We put it together. You needed people to go in and kind of put stuff together. And it's still important to do that. In our last startup, Wes, we had catered to one user, which was like very intentionally. So we were catering to like kind of like maybe two users. One user was like the person who would buy the software, which would be like a chief revenue officer, a VP of customer success or customer data for us. And then there was like a director of data or some data orchestrator in the company who was responsible for putting everything together. So we just had one user and the tool was very technical. It was basically kind of like Clay. Clay is a competitor to us now, right? They're obviously much bigger, but we're going after like that market. But Clay's claim is that we can have one user, which is the RevOps person. And exactly for our last company was the director of data. And we would empower them with really highly technical tools where they can have a spreadsheet like interface, put everything together, put all the piping, they can do whatever they want. And so we were so like, because it failed, we were so against that idea that we were like, just new whatever the next thing we'll do, we'll make it so freaking simple. And we're gonna make it so simple that the dumbest people, right, like will be able to use it and be like, wow, this is easy to use. And so we were so hell bent on it. So it actually started with like, how can we empower whoever the end user is? So we did a lot of analyses on who would be the not the buyer, but the end user. And for us, it was like, these are going to be like college kids, young folks, right? People just getting into sales. We were thinking that that's going to be our market that we're going to go after first. But it was great because we ended up trying to implement that chat interface everywhere. So we created like in like chat GPT version and we inspired, we almost like, I was a heavy user of Cursor. So I love their agentic chat, but it's still very technical. So we were like, what are the easier versions of that? And that's basically a lovable. There's a tool called V0 by Vercel. There's a tool called Bolt New, which is like these are startups that are Replit would be another one designed for non-engineers to do coding. And we inspired a lot of that on how their interface is. And it's very similar to it, where kind of like it's a search bar that you wake up to. There's also cards. If you're confused, you can pick those cards. There's things to help you with what the right prompting would be. But all it's doing is it's stitching 3 or 4 actions together that you would do in a spreadsheet, like everything from finding the right persona to then enriching data to doing personalized outreach to setting up inbound or chat widgets. All the functionality is supported with that chat interface. So that was that journey for us where we were like, man, we already have some of this we're using internally. Instead of putting that out in the world, we're just going to spend like a month, 2 months to make sure that it works with the chat interface and the agentic interface instead of buttons and
So that was your first 2 months of the
that was
business?
our first ones. Yeah, that's
It was
exactly.
creating
That's
a
all we
product.
did. Yeah, we released it, but we didn't get any traction. Like we had some customers who were just like, "Oh, this is such a cool idea," but it wasn't like off the charts then. So November, December, January, November end is when we decided to pivot. December we worked on this. End of Jan we launched. So we worked from 60 days nonstop on this, and Jan 31st was our launch date, and that was like our first like launch where we put it out in the world, and we were like, "Hey, you should try it," or
Right.
and
So you
and
didn't have like any beta users or anything like that, just your internal team?
yeah, just our internal team, and maybe like 3 friendlies, like 3 or 4 friendly
Yep.
customers who were
Yeah,
just
like design kind of partners.
design partners. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we were so bad. Like I didn't think we ran it like a design process. We were just like, here you go, use it. We'll watch you use it.
But I think one of the things, just as far as like to your credit too, like, that you hear a lot of like other startups are like, yeah, we had like hundreds of beta testers and everything else like that. But I think in your case, since you had done the, first SDR in a lot of companies to get from 0 to 1, you understood it really well of like, okay, I'm trying to build this. You have this vision. And I think there is actually a lot of beauty in that because it keeps it simple and you can move fast like you did. 2 months, that's super quick. So you created the product 2 months, January 31st. And then what happened? February. Did the launch go well? What was kind of the next kind of reaction there?
Yeah. So the launch was basically we got a bunch of excitement and we got a lot of like customers who were signing contracts. So we were
So
doing
how did you launch it to get that excitement? Curious. For the people listening, they're like 0 to 5 million in like 8 months, crazy. But what went on there? What kind of assets did you already have? Your list size? Anything else you can kind of share?
Oh, totally. So it was like we did a lot of these black hat kind of like launch ideas. I wish we had done better things too, but we did a couple of things. One of the things we did was we had like these early evangelists, right? Like these were the 3 or 5 people, 5 companies, and maybe 6 people that we knew, founders from other VC portfolios that we were friends with, that we were working with. We had them go and like talk about Jeeva AI, and that was like a slow effect to it. But basically, we had them post everywhere and say like, "Hey, I started using this new tool called Jeeva AI." And then this one guy we had, Dan Tratner was his name, and he was like an early like VP of sales somewhere that was using it. He had this interesting idea that worked really well. He just started going to all these forums, like all the sales forums everywhere, and started posting about like, "Hey, I'm evaluating this new tool called Jeeva AI. I don't know if anyone's used it. Can I get some feedback on it?" And that was awesome because I got a lot of buzz. People started coming to our website because they were all curious, like, who is this guy? What is he trying? What can I use it? So we got like, I think in our launch week, we got close to 320 form fills, out of which we got close to like 200 legit opportunities, and we converted like 20 deals within the first month. And this wasn't even like a PLG motion. This was like straight up like $5,000, $10,000 deals or 20,000. And we were just scoping it based on the size. But we had a packed calendar in January. Like the whole of February was just packed for us, like back to back meetings. But we had these like Slack groups, and groups is kind of what we use to have like some of the folks we already knew go announce it, and we were personally messaging. I would go and join like all the revenue communities. I'm banned everywhere now, but I was going there, and after like, "Hey, I'm Gaurav," and introduce for after 5 minutes, I would just go start pitching everybody, like DM messaging everyone. It was horrible, but it worked, and we got a bunch of like it was a lot of brute force effort to get the first initial.
Oh, totally. It sounds like a lot of brute force to kind of get the word out there. So you got like the 324 people in February.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, we got it was only 320 leads. So these are like, because it wasn't PLG, so we were trying to sell it as a company or to a team. So we got close to 20 signed customers by end of February. And then some of them are still here. Like I think the first early products was disappointing. Like people weren't as happy. So I think we lost like 10 immediately, and probably 10 are still with us. But after that, the retention cohorts have been really good.
Okay. So yeah, February, that's like proof. Okay, we got a good offer. People want something like this. And then what did your team do in March to kind of accelerate this?
So we did a couple of things. Some things we are very happy about, some things we're not as happy about. Like we just started doubling down on using Jeeva on our own product. Like we hired a couple, like we had some salespeople internally. So small team, we've always been this big, like 13, 15 people, right? 13 full time, and then 2 consultants, because we were already a little bit larger team because we were coming off a pivot. So we weren't like 3 people, we were 13 already. We haven't grown after
Who's
that.
on the team? Just while we're on
Yeah,
the
it was
topic.
mostly engineers, and then a couple of sales guys. And I was also selling. So we had 11 engineers and 2 sales, basically. That was kind of and if I consider myself more sales because I was doing all the demos and discovery calls and conversations. So we decided to double down on like using Jiva to increase the funnel and get more conversations. But we started spending a lot of time on getting customer feedback and basically just understanding how are they using it, what are they using, how would they roll it out, and what features would they need. So we started adding a lot of features because we were thinking that that's what is needed in the market to compete, and it did help us. But I feel the thing that we made a mistake on was like, especially this time when we launched West. So we did a launch recently. What we're doing is we're not launching any new features, but we're just trying to optimize the funnel. And I wish we had done that at that stage as well, because we had the core product working already, right? Like
Is that
I
one of
wish.
your consultants you have right now, like out of the two, or no? Or is nobody working on the like funnel optimization right
No,
now?
we have like one engineer dedicated to this. Like that's all he does. Like he wakes up in the morning now and he looks at like what is the awareness, which is how many folks we got on the website, what is the signups we got that day for this day, and right and before in February, March, it should have been how many form fills are we getting, and then like what is the funnel conversion. But now we're looking at from how many signups are we getting activation, and activation for us is, are they connecting in the workspace, are they doing a couple of actions, what is the retention after that, like are they coming back and seeing it, and then what is the retention to revenue. So in our first week of launch, like when we launched with Product Hunt, we were like meticulous about it. We were like, okay, we got 10,000 people, we got close to 750 signups in the first couple of days. We got those numbers, and then after that, it's been just like we're just tracking that cohort religiously. And out of that first 750 signups, we've already gotten, I think, like 15 paid users from that cohort. It was awesome. And then every cohort, they're just tracking it every day, basically. So it's much better now. I wish we had done this in February and March, but we became a little bit more sales obsessed and sales focused. We're like, how can we improve our pitch? How can we improve our decks? How can we improve our value proposition? Then what are not particular users, what are customers saying? What else should we build? So we were very build heavy. I wish we had been more like optimization heavy in the beginning, but it's, you live and you learn. It's only been 6 months, but it feels like 10 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been a quick run as well, but like you made a ton of progress. But yeah, just looking at your team as well, like that setup is definitely geared for products, building more features and everything else like that, which is actually very common with like product-led founders, where it's like, hey, what's your team look like? One of the previous episodes, we were talking with the founder or CEO of Missive, and very similar kind of company, just with that setup on that end. And I'm like, okay, when are you going to hire a marketer? And so they did, but then it was like, okay, it was a while into the business, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here as well for you to have, like, whether it's a growth product manager or somebody to just like look at right now kind of what your engineer is doing as well, but like having more of the design chops and everything else where they can execute that of like, is it acquisition, problem activation, or monetization, retention? But eventually you want to build like pods or like squads for each of those specific areas. And then it's like really focusing on that funnel optimization, because I do feel like so many companies with the focus on engineering being like the engineering led company, like some markets you definitely need that. But in many others, back to your core thesis of how can we get like, the high schooler that maybe not the high schooler, but the person just fresh out of school that gets their first sales job. How can we make this so easy that they just succeed by default? And it's like, it's actually not usually a feature thing. It's like, how do we make this the easiest? And that might actually be like stripping out a lot of things. But
what is your hypothesis, Wes? If you don't mind me asking, I'm curious on, you talked about pods, super interesting. Would you say that there's a pod for each stage in the funnel? Is that how you would say, or is it pods on different feature sets, like someone's in charge of onboarding? Or are you saying that like a pod that is in charge of activation? And
yeah, a lot of our like product led implementers are like past like VPs of growth. So what they will typically do is they'll spin up a team that's just going to work on whatever the top growth opportunity is. So whether it's acquisition, it's engagements, monetization, retention, like they'll just make that call of like, okay, we only have so many resources, so we're going to dedicate like the team here to focus. And then over time, it's like, hey, we're just like hitting a lot of wins here. We're getting great results. Let's spin up another team. Maybe this is going to be just focused on like acquisition, or it's just on retention, wherever the next biggest opportunity is. And so now you have like two teams for like for all cylinders in those specific areas. And then you can add like a third, fourth one. It depends how big you become on that end, where it warrants like, okay, we're going to have another, 300K team or 400K team, just focusing on that one area. And the beauty of it though, is it's super measurable. It's like, okay, great. How much did we improve the engagement rate from like free to paid? Fantastic. Let's do it again.
I love that. I think micro tweaking is awesome. And I was also reading like the guy who coined the term, I forget, Sean S, I think, right? Is the guy who coined the term growth hacker.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it was really interesting. There was a video I was watching, which is exactly what you're saying, is that a lot of founders and VPs of sales and revenue and growth, they focus on awareness and they spend a lot of time on awareness. But meanwhile, what they should be focused on is how quickly can you get someone activated? Then how quickly can you get someone like activation, retention, referral flow? And that's like where the beauty is. He was like the first guy at Dropbox, like the first growth guy. It was an awesome webinar. And it's exactly what you're saying. So I love it. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Totally. And then for your kind of like next month, we got March, you were kind of refining some of those pieces. What kind of happens in the future months? So like if we go to April.
So I think Wes, the mistakes we made was like April, May, June, and up until July. when we did our second launch, it was very like new feature heavy. And we got a lot of deals, but we were having a harder time activating users. Our positives were we had a lot of momentum because every couple of weeks we'd launch some big thing like, oh, we have AI inbound, now we have AI chat, now we have some this is like cool big features, and it would help like top of funnel and like getting deals in. But we were seeing that it's getting slower and slower, and we didn't have a customer success kind of function. Now we have one customer success person who's doing it all, but we didn't have any customer success, so we had no activation. So we were seeing like the user metrics would be like one or two or five people max in the company when we have sold like 20 seats, for example. So we're getting like a slower start. But on the revenue side, we focused a lot on like optimizing our pitch, our value proposition, try to do all the deals, just to understand what people want and what pain points are, how we can compete in the market, how can we be different than ZoomInfo and Apollo and Outreach and all the other tools that exist. And a lot of the focus was like, how do we make ourselves different, not better? So that was like a core kind of focus area for the next few months. But April for us, I'm trying to remember like how much revenue we did, but like Feb and March were slower, but April was like I think our first like 750,000 ARR month. Like April, May, June have been like a million each almost for us. So that was like a first big month for us. And I think April we started doing bigger deals as well. Like we started getting more confidence, so we started pitching like higher prices. So for a team your size, I think that was one when we closed our first $220,000 deals. So that was really nice because we were doing like 5K, 10K, 20K, 30K was like our max. And then we started pitching 60. And we didn't get any 60, but we got like a couple of 120K deals, which is
Somehow.
why is it? Like the funny part is, I think another funny observation is, so we have prepaid like for PLG launch West, we have like $0, $20, 50 and 100. And so we have close to, let's say 60% of our users are paying us $20 right now, the free users, like the PLG motion. And then 30% are paying $100 and only like 10% are paying $50. So I'm like, why though, right? What's going on here? So I have no idea why, but it's so interesting. It's like either people get less value or a lot of value, but in the middle, they're not buying as much, where it should be the normal cohort should be. So we still don't have any $60,000 deal. And we have a bunch of 120, we have some like 240, and we have a bunch of like 10, 20, $30,000 deals. It's crazy. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I guess like what I mean changed for you internally as a company to like kind of support some of those bigger deals. Was there anything you had to change, or was it just more so gaining confidence and like, hey, listen, we've helped many people do this, and you're not the first kind of thing coming through here?
I think a couple of things changed. Was we were still very user focused, so we spent a lot of time with customers. We had a couple of our engineers that we changed their word. We call them like forward deployed engineers after that Palantir article, or solutions architect. But basically, just having them like be on every onboarding call, customer call. We started doing weekly syncs with a lot of our customers. It's getting harder now because we have 350 paid customers now, not users, but customers. But they like we have a couple of team members, they meet with them weekly or like maybe bi-weekly with some. So their calendars are packed. I go on a lot of those calls. So we started doing like a lot of customer focused groups on onboarding, retention, activation. It was very manual. It wasn't product led, which I feel as a mistake. Like if I can go back and redo it, I would do it like this, like you were describing, right? Like funnel optimization and making the product easier, better, faster. After the first aha, I don't think we did any of that, but we focused a lot on process at that time, like talking to customers, and it was still like more features for us in April and May and June was like filled with features. But yeah, that's kind of what we focused on, Wes.
Cool. Well, I love that. And so for a couple like follow-up pieces here, you mentioned like we want to position ourselves as different, not better. And you spent a ton of time like refining your pitch. And clearly by the time you got to like April, May, June, that's like firing all cylinders and you're getting bigger deals, but you're also just ramping things up quite significantly. So could you maybe share like your own little version of a masterclass on like, hey, if you are a startup founder listening to this, like what are some of those things that you did and would recommend doing to really refine that pitch? Because I know there's like one part like strategy to this. There's how do we market it, position it, everything else. And there's a lot of convoluted advice out there, but clearly you found something that works for you.
Yeah, totally. So Wes, like I'm not a marketer by trade, but I spend a lot of time studying marketing, and there's a old Ogilvy code, I think, like one of the old, like it basically says different travels faster than better. And I love that because what it talks about is that if you tell your friends about ChatGPT, you're not telling them how much better it is than whatever came before. You're telling them that, oh, I found this different thing that's really exciting. You should try it. And if my friend or my brother that I recommended ChatGPT to goes and tries it and is like horrible, then I still have my social credibility because I never said it's better. I said it's different. It's something cool that you should try. And if I go in and I say that, hey, whatever product you're using, let's say you use for in our world, it's Apollo, right? Apollo or ZoomInfo. And if I go in and say we're 10x better than ZoomInfo, and people try it and they're like, man, it's actually not that much better than ZoomInfo, then it's very hard to just, you're losing social credibility. So one of the things that I learned early on is every messaging, we're not going to try and position anywhere it's better. We're going to position it as like, oh, totally different experience. So even if you come on our website, it's like the search bar is right in the front and center, and
Oh
you
yeah,
can the
it's
users can
different.
go. It's different, and in our market, obviously, it's very similar to ChatGPT. It's also similar to Perplexity. It's very similar to all the code gen solutions, but it's different than anyone in my market. So it's great because when salespeople come in, they start typing right away and they sign up. So our awareness to acquisition funnel is some of the best. Like we get 10% visitors to sign up, which is like it's, I think the industry average is like 3% or 5%. So we have problems elsewhere. Like I think our acquisition to activation is slower than the market, but this part is really good just because we're different. So if we also had put in like social logos and like a bar chart going up and like some like form with sign up, it might have been 3%. So I feel we focus a lot of time and effort in just trying to be different. And I think that's been like a big focus for us on like our pitch and our value prop and our pricing and you know, how we run sales cycles. Like also what we did, again, this is not product oriented, but sales oriented. In the first call, like we also do medic and medpic, like a lot of the same qualifications that others do. But what we try to do is we don't try to like stop you from knowing the pricing or seeing the demo. Like so, one of the changes we started doing is what we would do is we would do research on the kind of company we're talking to, the size of the team, and we would already have what the ideal credits and pricing should be. We would put it in a deck and we would say, here's 3 slides about us, by the way. We want to tell you. So obviously we'll start with like, Wes, great to see you. We've done research. Tell us more about your pain points. What are you focused on? Why did you come on the call, right? Some basic discovery. Then we'd go in and we're like, here's who we are. Here's Jeeva, slide 1, slide 2. By the way, for a company your size, this is how much it costs. And people are like, that's wildly different than how they get pitched, right? Because they see pricing at the end. We show it in the beginning, and it's great because and then we go into a demo. We ask them more questions. Could this apply? They already know the pricing. So at the end of the call, we're basically like, what do you think?
Yeah,
What's your
you want to
buying
sign up?
process?
Yeah.
You want to sign the DocuSign? It's very easy, and the conversions are much better. Like right, like if
Yeah,
we were to like have another call because there's a drop off at each stage. So that's also a little bit different than how people do it, but we try to be a little bit different at each stage of like our pipeline and how
totally.
we get
If you
customers.
think of like most product-led companies too, it's actually pretty typical. Like, hey, here's the price. Yeah, I got the pricing page, and you go through that part too. But yeah, in the sales process, that part for most companies is very like, hey, it's at the ends, and this is how much it is, and then you're like, can you afford it or not? That's another discussion too. But okay, so you got like some momentum. When did you start on the PLG motion? Like, when was that kind of like kicking off? And what made you decide like, hey, we have this working sales led motion, let's throw this in?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm so excited about this, Vesh. I was telling my team that like because I've like at least in my last 2 companies, we've been very sales led. In my last product, and even the one before, we were selling to hospitals and healthcare. It's very hard to be product led when you're selling to these large enterprises. Even in my last org that we were doing, so I'm so excited. We always wanted to be this. We had the DNA for it, but generally we felt the product's not ready, and I think this could be like an engineering mindset. We want it to be perfect, right? I'm an engineer more than a product person. So I was like, we have to make it better before we launch it to the world. We have to like tweak this. We have to do this. And at one point, we launched this one feature, Wes, where we saw that customers who have more users using it, because we are credit based, it's unlimited users. So it's better for us. We get more consumption, but the retention numbers are way higher. So if you have, right, I think this is a very direct math, but if you have 10 users inside an org, then one user, the chances of retention are higher. So we launched this one feature, which is really interesting. We have this, when as soon as you sign up, Wes, you can connect your Google Workspace or your Microsoft Workspace. We added it in the beginning at the end because we saw there's some things we can provide early on that are initial moments. But as soon as you sign up, we can then read your inbox pretty quickly if you give us the right permissions. And then I can know who are the top 10 people in the company you talk to the most. And then I can recommend them as users to you. And it's as simple as like, hey, Wes, like you should add John and Susie and right. And do you want to add them? Right in the beginning. So what we saw is people were actually adding other people outside the org, and we didn't know why. And it was a bug, but we allowed them to. So the issue was that a bunch of like external users became part of your org, which nobody wanted. But sales guys and sales team people were inviting others because they were trying to just get other people to use the product. And I think that was a clear sign for us that we got to go PLG and just double down on it. So that was about 30 days ago.
Correctly, like somebody, let's say signed up for Jeeva, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to add my friend or like some other business owners to my account. Or is this like, no, I would be bringing in like another consultant to run their outbound campaigns or something?
So basically what was happening is we had very convoluted messaging. That was our bad. But the messaging that we had was, hey, invite others on Jeeva. So it said nothing about like invite them.
They didn't know, like, is it inviting a friends because they like it, or is it adding them to their account?
That's exactly right. They didn't know that. So, and we didn't think that it would be non-obvious, which, you know, as engineers, we always think, put something out and people don't understand it, use it totally differently. So we were seeing that people were adding like their team members, but they were adding more emails and they were just sending it out to other people in outside the org. And at that point we were like, oh, they're liking it enough that they want to spread it. They want others, their friends to see it. And we were like, okay, we're going to do PLG. So that was about 3 weeks ago. We decided to do a big launch. 21st of July was like a product hunt launch, and it went really well. We got 900 upvotes. We were product of the day. I don't think we ended up being product of the week because some other guys crushed us, but it's all good. Part of the game you play. But it got ton of momentum, ton of signups, like crazy momentum for us. But we took like a couple of weeks to just prepare for a launch, and more than product, it was getting marketing ready because we hadn't done any marketing. So it was all about having some videos, recording some onboarding tutorials, cleaning up our how-to guides to make sure. Because right now, if people are confused, we're like, let's get on a call and let's talk to you. We'll just help you, guide you through it, which is awesome. Great customer support. People love us. But at the same time, you can't do it when you have 500 users on it at a single time having issues. So we tried to work a lot on having a great, like we call it Jeeva University. We launched like a lot of videos, a lot of everything with AI is so simple now, but it took us some time still. But we put everything together and did a lot of good content so people can guide themselves, cleaned up the onboarding flow, which still feels like there's so much more we can do better on the activation.
There always is.
There's always is, right? So we spent a lot of time and effort just cleaning up the funnel and making Stripe work and changing the pricing page on the website and stuff.
What was that moment though where you were like, this is it, we have to go down this path? Like I talked to a lot of founders that make the shift from sales led to product led. Usually it's something around the lines of like, look at my calendar, this is scary. Like, I don't own this business, it owns me time wise. And then they're like, I can only see this way if, you know, we can keep our team small and nimble, but I'm going to have to be like, you know, 100 plus company if I go down the sales led path any more than I am.
I totally agree, Wes. I feel like it's awesome. What you're saying is that even though that wasn't for us to get started on this journey, it was more like that feature I was talking about. But I truly believe I exactly what you said. Like, I feel like there's a part of me wanting to build something where billions of people will use it one day. And I really want that. And I feel like, you know, like I've been on this enterprise journey for way too long that I truly believe everything the other founders are saying, which is, can we have a calendar clean day where we're just working on product and features and, you know, looking at support tickets versus like getting on back-to-back Zoom calls with customers. I think as good as that is, I feel I'll give a really good story to you. And now that you said this, I don't remember, but there's this product called Firecrawl, which is like really popular now. It's basically this crawling, and we use an engine like that. We built our own, but after we built it, we found it. So we're like, man, we should just use this. But what Firecrawl does, Wes, is I can go and say, it's like in natural language, I can ask it to collect data and it's like deep research on ChatGPT, but there's an API for it. So it's kind of like the ChatGPT deep research API. And they had this really good quote somewhere where the founder basically said, we had $300,000 customers over like 2 years, and we had like 10 pilots that were running, and we were it is enterprise focused. And me and my co-founder woke up one day and we were like, we really don't want to be on any sales calls anymore. So they
Yeah.
basically just went back to the board and said, we're not going to do it. We're going to return the capital back to these companies, and we're just going to launch like an open source product on GitHub and see how it goes. And their board was kind enough to support them. And now Firecrawl is like a really fast growing company. They have like 300,000 plus users. They have like this massive open source community. And I was like, and I believe like I read that and I was like, man, I wish that was me too. I would love to like not be on back-to-back Zoom calls and sales calls and right, like customer support calls, as much as I want to do it and I love it, because you have to do it as a founder, otherwise how would you learn? But also at some points I'm like, man, I wish I was just like not doing it and not.
But there's the like balance of it too. And I think also like which market you're in is an important factor of that decision too. It's probably not going to be, especially in your market, selling to people in sales that, they do actually like
They do actually
occasionally the
like
call. They don't necessarily want to set up everything on their own. It's probably going to be more or less a product-led sales motion anyways, where it's like, hey, small accounts, go ahead. Self-serve. And then for the bigger ones, especially those like 240K ones you're talking about, is like, yeah, there's definitely going to be a sales process involved there as far as like how we make sure this is like custom, can really help you and go through that process. So on that end, can you walk us through like those 3 weeks? Like how did you go about launching the PLG motion? Because I know for a lot of companies, they spend a lot more than 3 weeks. It's more like, yeah, at least 3 months to kind of get the MVP launched. And then they do a really slow process of launching it. So 3 weeks is super fast. So let's break it down, man.
Yeah, Wes, I don't want to brag because I'm on your show, but we met on the Nathan Latka podcast. This was in June, right? So this was maybe mid June from what I remember, or early June. And after that, I got hooked on kind of the product like GPT that you shared. I don't know if it's open source. I don't know if I want to talk
No,
about it,
you can
but
share it.
it was awesome. So because what I started doing with it was I had already been thinking about this. And at that point, I started going back and forth with it to just understand pricing, because I was really confused about how to price this. Because for non PLG companies, for customers, we're pricing it based on the size of the sales team that you have. And it's on credit based. So it's unlimited users and you use it on credits. So I was very confused because a lot of activation is needed for you to consume these credits. And we were doing this manually. So I spent a lot of time with your GPT going back and forth and figuring out what the pricing could be. That was like the one thing we wanted to nail. And candidly, the pricing we ended up going with is a standard like seat based model, which is for PLG, it's $0, it's free forever. It's $20, so you can get some credits, but it's only for one user, and it's 50 and 100. So it's credit based, but it's for one user. It's $20 a month. So it's standard. It's not like zero and then based on what you use. And it was great because it took a lot of going back and forth with the GPT, doing deep research to understand what it would be. Once we nailed that, then after that, it was basically figuring out when are we going to launch and keep a date. So we actually looked at just ChatGPT and figured out what could be a good date to launch on Product Hunt to create a buzz. And it gave us some ideas. It said that Monday is a really good day for launch if you're trying to maximize users and not necessarily try to maximize like winning Product Hunt of the day. So what we did was we picked Monday, and we try to pick it like a little bit distant but not too far away to give people an artificial deadline. So we gave ourselves like an artificial deadline that 21st July is when we're going to launch. And we created a product, like a project plan. Everybody had actions, like, because we have a ship that's still running. So we have to make sure the ship runs. So we divided it into two teams. So we created as like almost a SWAT team of like, keep the lights on. We call them the keep the lights on team.
Yeah.
Make sure that current users and customers are not mad, that things are happening for them. And then it was basically the new product, which is the same product, but it's like a new product launch team. And their job is to clean up, like set up the marketing campaigns, make sure there's a newsletter, make sure investors are helping us, make sure our friendlies are helping us, make sure we have enough testimonials, enough reviews, like just enough traction to make us feel like a PLG brand and like a credible brand. And then what would be the messaging, positioning, and like we just had a project plan, everyone executed, and it just ended up obviously like things that didn't have to work. Like I remember Sunday night at 8 p.m. the production went down because we were trying to make some fixes. We deployed it. It's like some keys got misplaced, and then the guys were debugging it till 4 a.m. to launch at 8 a.m. in the morning. But obviously it wasn't like ChatGPT launch, like where millions of users were coming in, but we wanted to put our best foot forward, and I think we did, and it worked really well for us. But I'm very excited about this. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, who knows where the company is going to go, West, but like I have a very good feeling about the traction that we have, the conversions we're getting, and I truly believe if we can optimize it and build something value, because we already have something valuable. If we can improve the funnels, I wouldn't be surprised if you're like at 20 million ARR by the end of the year, all PLG, right? And like a sales led PLG motion, right? Where it's PLG, but then you try it and then we give you a call and try to like get your team on something like that.
Yeah. And I think one thing that is really helping in that transition for you versus like some of the other companies we talked to, where it's like, hey, like your product, very complex and there's a lot going on there, but you had already done a lot of that upfront work of like, how do we make this simple? And that's I think one of the core pieces, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, how do you differentiate? It's like, we're simpler than a lot of the other alternatives.
I agree. That is our value prop. When people are like, even after the demo, they're like, what is next steps? And I'm like, hey, you should get in the product, just try it, right? Spend some time, sign up for it, which is the exact opposite of how other companies would sell you, because they're trying to avoid, unless you sign the contract, they're not trying to get you in. So we're basically like, go sign up. And a lot of folks like get aha, like just about on Thursday, we closed a deal, small company, small user base. But I remember because they were hesitant to signing, they were like, oh, we have so much going on. So what I said is, we already have a DocuSign out. Why don't you sign up, play with it for a night, right? Some features will turn on. If you get mad at it, just turn it off. Here's how you turn it off if things don't work. The next day said, oh, I tried it. It was awesome. It's fire. Let's get started. They signed the contract. We kicked them off. So I feel like just making it simpler helps a lot, right?
Oh, totally. I think that goes back to why product led is when people are allowed to try before they buy, it builds trust really, really quick. We're like, oh yeah, I can see that vision of like what I could do with your product and get there much faster. So I love that. And one thing I definitely am taking away as far as the takeaway for how to do a quick PLG launch is set that deadline. And it's so simple, man, because you think about like a race or something where you're like, hey, we're going to go ahead with this. Is like, buy that ticket, just like for the run or whatever it is, just sign up for that race and the training will unfold. You can like make a plan for it. And the shorter deadline, actually, the better for most things. So I love that. And having the two teams is really important. So like, as far as how you divided that, I know you're at about 13 or 15 people with the consultants, but was it like an equal 50-50 split, or did you have like a different breakdown of that? Like, how did that look like?
Yeah, it was three folks on the Keep the Lights On team. And then,
okay, wow. So that was the lighter one.
So it was definitely skewed more towards like trying to make this work and get the launch ready. Yep. But the folks on the Keep the Lights On team, it's so hard. I've done this before because we pivoted, Wes. I had done something very similar, so I kept the same. I literally copy pasted my OKRs from when we pivoted as a company, and we had done the exact same exercise, different people this time. But what we had done was we had a Keep the Lights On team because we had some users and some companies paying us like hundreds and thousands of dollars, which we needed to survive. Otherwise, if we would have pivoted to Jeeva and completely let go of our old product, we would have died. Basically, we had no money left in the bank. And so we had to keep the lights on team, because you almost like, I had read this somewhere, but it's like you have to give them vision and mission, because nobody would want to work on the old thing, right? I had learned a lot from my pivot, because I think the funny part is I think pivots are so interesting, and it should be like a whole like 20-hour session on a pivot. But it's so hard because imagine like as a founder, right? I'm sure you've seen this. As a founder, you believe in a vision and you've put something together. You've sold everyone that vision. It's like this customer data thing is going to be the best freaking thing. And we already have paying customers. So it's not zero, it's mediocre. It's working with, right? So at what point do you say that you go back to investors, your team, and say, hey, the vision I sold you is not the right vision. By the way, I have this new idea that I don't know, that may or may not be successful. It could be even worse than this idea, but I want you to now, leave the ship and join this ship with me. And I want you to believe in me when you've already spent 5 years on something that I sold you that hasn't worked. That's really hard to do. And then also, how do you convince the folks to stay on that old ship still, to make sure that that's sailing for some time? So I read a lot about like psychology during this time, like how to motivate people to do it. And I read like there was something about like purpose and giving people purpose and clearly delegating that, hey, your purpose is to make sure that we have enough runway to keep going. So that's what they had done in the pivot. So that's why we call it keep the lights on team. And they have a purpose because they don't want to work on the shitty product that's not working. In the beginning, no one wants to work on the new thing because they're not sold yet. But then after a few days, everyone wants to work on the new thing because novelty is really big. So how do you get people to stay on the old ship and make sure it's still running and not sinking? And then how do you get the new team motivated enough to find product market fit as quickly as possible? Because you have limited time to make it happen. So that's really interesting. So I've done that once. I literally pasted my OKRs for this launch, and
Nice. No, I love that. And especially like back to the purpose piece, I think that's very underrated as well. Of like, hey, like you are serving the business in a humongous way so you can get to this next milestone and go to this new future that nobody knows. But I think that is the ultimate goal is like, as long as the founder and CEO has like the commitment, conviction, like, hey, that can move mountains. But if you don't have that for anything, then it's way harder to go through. So as we kind of wrap up here, is there any other like tips, takeaways, or things on your journey from 0 to 5 million ARR in 8 months that you want to kind of point out or just share with other founders?
Yeah, I think Wes, like this is super underrated advice, right? Or maybe overrated, maybe underrated. But I know, but it's so true. I think like as a founder in early stage, late stage, like recently I was working with, I got an opportunity to know the Ramp founder, CEO, and I was spending some time with him, and he was talking about even at that stage, he's reminding himself on what's important. And what's important is like you're either building the product or working on the product. Either you're like talking to customers trying to close deals or talking to customers trying to keep them and make them happy, or you're just hiring and firing. And that's literally everything that's important in a company. There's nothing else that matters. But we get so busy and right with different features and different things and different ideas and different parts like PR, it could be like press, fundraising. I think all of that is extremely easy compared to these three things. So I always have to remind myself, I've written it down as sticky notes literally next to my table. Yeah, it's like these three things that's what it matters. And I tell my team to orient themselves. Every time there's some new idea or something, I'm like, is it one of these three things? If it's not, then let's not work on it. And I truly believe, I think it's more than ever after my failed idea over the several years, we tried everything. We tried so much marketing, West. We spent so much time and money on, trying to come up, like coin this. We even paid like a consultant $250,000, West. Nothing bad on that agency. They did a phenomenal job. But to create a name for a category, and we call it the customer intelligence platform after spending $250,000. And we had like 50 users like at that time. So it's like, what a waste of time and effort and opportunity. But I feel like I wish we had oriented ourselves back to product, which I feel like product led is the best name like of a podcast. Even if you're not an enterprise company, if you're product led, you'll win, right? Like you'll still win even if you're sales led, but you still have a product that is amazing and is better than whatever is in the market, is different, is easy to use. I think that's always an investment worth making in my personal opinion.
Totally. And one thing I'll challenge you on for that, because I agree for sure, like bias totally on the product led front, but there's also something else that you're doing that's really, really great, which is like, sure, you're making the product easy to use, but what are you doing to make waves on the go-to-market side and getting the word out there? Because that is, I would definitely say, the product led founders typical kryptonite. It's like getting out there and it's like, okay, stop building features, make it easy, one, and then two, get the word out there that what you do is actually better so people can learn about it. So like I've been definitely seeing the stuff you've been putting out on LinkedIn, which we can link to your LinkedIn as well in the show notes, because like you're posting, it looks like every day each one has like 200, 300 likes. Like you're getting some good traction going for sure. But what do you do on the go-to-market side to generate that awareness?
Yeah, totally. LinkedIn's been huge for us because my market lives and breathes on LinkedIn. It's sales guys, sales teams, sales leaders, founders. They're all on LinkedIn. So that's great. I mean, I'm so lucky that 100% of our marketing and my market is on one platform, right? Like, so LinkedIn is so important for me. Like when I started, let's say like earlier this year, I had close to like 500 followers. Now I'm close to 23,000. It's still early. Like it's not that I'm doing millions of followers, but I've like put in a lot of effort. So again, like as a founder, as an engineer, I've put in a lot of effort on like what the algorithm is. And the algorithm for LinkedIn is very simple. It's basically like content has to be with high dwell time. So you create something that is spaced out, is like carousels, videos, PDFs do really well, infographics where people spend time viewing the content. That's number one. So if you create content like that, but then it's all about consistency. I do it 2 times a day, 7 days a week, have to plan it in advance. So it does take me maybe like 3-4 hours in every week doing this. And then similarly, I have one marketer now who does it for everything else, like on Instagram, on TikTok. It just takes that content, puts it everywhere. And then you just have to reply to every comment, because the more comments you get, the more replies you have. There's like a golden hour that does well. But in short, like just organically posting and creating a founder brand has been very important. And I think that's why our product hunt launch was so good, because we were able to put it out there. We were like, we got to be number one, help us out. And everybody was commenting. And then when they were upvoting for us, they were like, oh, this product is kind of cool. Like we should use it. So it gave us a lot of signups, a lot of momentum. And it just, the crazy part is like the momentum in marketing is such that, right, go to market is such that it's like keep paying dividend. And it's like you do it once. If you can continue doing it every day, it's great. But it's kind of like when I was starting in sales, Wes, I had this mentor who said, sales is like sprouting seeds, and you don't know which they're going to sprout. Like you give them water, you give them a lot of love. Some are going to sprout next day. Some are going to sprout in a year. Some might sprout in 10 years, but that's how it is. And in my last startup, I remember like in my first kind of company, we were almost about to die, and I had to send this one email to a big hospital, and they had basically never replied to me. But like 3 years later, the CIO reached out and said that, hey, I would received this email from you, and we're now looking for a solution like this. Are you still in the market? So that was so crazy. I was like, 3 years later, they had just bookmarked it. They might have remembered it. Somebody brought it up. They were like, this is the right time. Let me go back to everyone I know in the market. So I was like, man, it's crazy. And that became like a $1.5 million deal for us. We got a 3-year deal. It got $4.5 million like of instant cash in the business when we were like super poor and had lost everything basically. So, and then similarly, I feel like I wake up today and I don't know what the numbers are today, but I bet like we got 500 signups today, right? And we didn't do anything after that, but it's kind of like a flywheel, right? There's word of mouth that happens. So I think there's stuff that's measurable and instantly measurable. There's stuff that is non-measurable. And I feel like just working hard on the non-measurables is equally important, right? Like creating that founder brand, trying to like just be out there more often, right? Like it's not that I try to go to every event as possible, but just being out there in the community, talking to people, helping people, responding to posts. I try to like comment on a lot of posts, which gets me a lot of visibility. But I also feel that I learned so much from what people are doing. So there's like, I don't know if I've been commenting on your post, Wes, but like I'm out there,
Not yet. Okay.
I'm commenting every day, like looking at stuff, and that helps a lot. So yeah, go to market super important, I feel. And I feel like it goes back to like building product, but at some point it's kind of like talking to customers, talking to users, closing as many deals as possible. I think is like right up there. Right? It's number two, but I don't think they can be mutually exclusive, right? I think it happens at the same time almost.
Oh, it's been awesome. I've loved this
Thanks, Wes.
conversation. It's been great. It's lots of takeaways. How to launch PLG a lot faster,
Yeah.
set that deadline, and make it something you have to commit to and show up for other people. Definitely focus on the founders' brands. Make sure that you're actually getting the word out there. You definitely had a lot of great things to say just about like how to make your product simple, but also different. So what could you do on the way even people interact with your product to make it really dummy proof, so it's really, really simple for anyone to get value? And what's cool about that is that definitely expands your total addressable market to go through it. And then he also shared some awesome stuff about how to split up the teams when you think about, okay, going to this new version of your product. You have team, keep the lights on, team. Was it the new product launch? Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was. So this is great. And as far as like where people can find you, I know I'll be linking to Jeeva AI where people can go check it out. But it's besides LinkedIn for yourself, is there any other places you want people to connect with you?
I think email is really good. I respond to every email. I'm a big believer of like email still. I'm staying with it. I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. I feel like every decade there's some new tool. It's like Slack's promise was email's going to be dead. And it's funny how.
Well, no, not really.
Yeah, I'm very simple. It's G and at Jeeva AI, JEEVA.ai,
Okay.
and respond to everyone. LinkedIn is great too. The funny part is, Wes, like I was at an event and I was basically telling somebody, just look up my name, you'll find me. And they said there's like 9 Gaurav Bhattacharyas. I was like, what the WTF? Like, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
there's actually a bunch of Gaurav Bhattacharyas. So you'll have to do Gaurav and Jeeva. I think hopefully I pop up. Like, it's a very unique name. I have a very unique name, but I have no idea why there's so many like Gaurav
Yeah.
Bhattacharyas now
You're
all
like,
of a sudden
dang
on LinkedIn.
it.
Yeah,
What's going
exactly.
on there?
So LinkedIn and email would be the easiest ways to find me.
Okay. And then how do you manage your time? Like, it sounds like clearly between all the meetings, you got responding to all those comments, all those emails. Where do you find the time to do everything?
Wes, I love what I do, but I'm not good at managing time. I work a lot, and I wish I would say like I have this magic pill of like I work 7 days a week. It's crazy. Like I'm on always. I wish I can get better at this. I feel like my family always does an intervention on me. Like this weekend, I had promised my brother to meet up with him. I was just working constantly. I totally forgot about it. So my brother was like, "Man, you gotta like manage your time better." So I don't know if there's maybe I'll listen to other podcasts you've done with founders who manage time better, but I'm not good at it. I'm also like I think I have a lot of ADHD, so I get distracted a bunch. But at the same time, one of the bad habits is I get hyper focused. Like with launch, I was so focused on launched. I didn't talk to anybody. It's like super focused. Like three weeks, I must have worked 20-hour days, 7 days a week. So focused on making this launch successful, which is great. But at the same time, it kind of comes at the cost of like pissing off your loved ones. And my dogs always like are like, what the fuck? Do the bare minimum. At least give us food twice a day. It's like,
Totally. So working a ton right now, but how do you keep your energy so high? Like just in this conversation, it's, I can always tell like, hey, if a founder is super low energy or high energy, but like you have this like rocket fuel, I don't know, you're drinking this.
coffee only. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Now I'm in founder mode. Have you heard that? It was an all in
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah. Paul Graham, for sure.
Yeah, but I feel like I love what I do and I really enjoy this. And there was a mindset change sometime back when my startup wasn't doing so well. I read this article somewhere. Whenever you're sad about something, like, oh, I have to do this now, right? It just change your verbiage to like I get to do this instead of I have to do this. And that was like game changing for me. I truly believe that sometimes I'm like, man, I have to do this, and then I just change my mindset to like, oh, I get to do this. I'm so lucky. Like I grew up very poor, West. Like a lot of kids in my neighborhood, they're all like car mechanics. Like I get to do this, create so many jobs, create so much value for the world, like, get famous while doing it. I like have so much good
Totally.
things happening. And I'm obviously not going to take it, but like XAI reached out to me yesterday and they were like, I'm looking like if you want to join us. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I was like, that sounds amazing. Right? Like, cause like I get to do stuff that like, right, that helps people and then also improves my credibility, my brand, my like get to create something that millions of people can use one day, maybe billions one day. I think that's just amazing. So I feel that just keeps me going. Hard days, hard tasks, hard because as a founder, and you know this better than anyone, Wes, right? You don't get to work on easy things every day, right? You get to work on hard things. You have to work on having hard conversation with customers. But then,
I'll add a caveat. You could totally just do the easy things, but that will not let you grow the business. I've been there too.
yeah, just like screw all the hard stuff, just delegate.
Yeah, that's not the best way to grow a business for sure.
Just let your EA fire someone. And yeah, the people do that, right? Haven't you heard like this during COVID? This founder had fired like 900 people in his company on a Zoom call, like just like a recorded Zoom message to everybody. And yeah, it's the easy pill, right? But then that's not good for the business. I feel like just changing the mindset to saying that I get to do this, and that's been like a true game changer for me. I haven't tried meditation or yoga and things like that, but I feel like just that mindset shift has been like really good.
Totally. And then what do you think is holding you back from delegating and like freeing up some of your time and capacity so it's less on your plate, more on the rest of the team's plate? Because you're definitely wearing a lot of hats, that's for sure.
I do, Wes. That's such a good point. I feel like I'm overcompensating from my last startup's failure, like in my last company. And I'm going to say this publicly, no offense to anyone. We actually ended up hiring a bunch of like VPs and C-level execs too early because we raised money. And then that's the next Silicon Valley advice was like, okay, why are you raising money, right? You have to put some hiring plan together, basically, which is so counterintuitive now. Because now with large language models, you can actually say R&D expense is going to be 90%, which is awesome. But before you would do is you'd create a hiring plan. You say, we need 20 reps to hit this quota. We need like 30 people to enable them. We need 50 SDRs. We need like 500 engineers, whatever that is. And we need like a VP of sales, marketing, customer success. Then we need C-level execs. So I did that, and obviously we were able to raise money, and then we went and started hiring these people. So I over delegated, which is also not great. But basically I was like, I've hired really smart people. I'm going to empower them. I'm going to get out of their way, which is also a Silicon Valley advice, right? Like, it's like, get out of their way. Founders are the best job the founder can do is just hire great people around them and then get out of their way, let them execute. And yeah, we failed eventually. So I'm almost like overcompensating, Wes, but I feel like hopefully after some success, right? Maybe towards the end of the year, I'll try to like let go a little bit, but I've become like a control freak. I'm literally in every detail, which is horrible for me and also for my team. Like, they're basically like, just let us operate. But I want to review everything. I want to look at every single line that goes out there of code, of like marketing. I feel I'm just overcompensating from my last failure, but hopefully at some point I can readjust. I know the good news is like I know like exactly I'm doing the wrong thing. Like, at least I know that
That's why we're having this therapy session.
That's exactly right. Like, I know I'm in the wrong here, but it's kind of like hard to let go at this point.
Oh, totally. Because you're right. I've done the same thing too, where you hire the leadership team and then you're like, whoa, okay, this isn't right. And then, you read like articles like Paul Graham, founder mode, you hear about that. You're like, oh yeah, there is something that the founder should do. So I'm definitely going to keep tabs on you on this, because I want to see some improvement, because there is like the beauty of like, hey, hitting amazing revenue milestones, but then also at like a point where it's like, hey, you get to do your unique ability thing, your founder mode thing, and you got the team, the systems around you to support you without losing that soul. Because I think like this is the whole focus of my next book, The Free Life, is like, how do you design a business that's literally just, it's like you get to do you, and all the rest of the pieces are taken care of, so you can, it's like stay in your sweet spot. But doing that in a way, it's really tricky. So
I love the topic of the book. I think it's going to be a bestseller, to be honest. It's so important. Everyone should read it. Whenever you have an
I haven't written it yet.
Oh, you haven't written it yet? Oh, yeah.
Not yet. Not that one. No.
Start writing it, then I'll review it. I'll be your proofreader, and maybe I'll use it. I truly believe like there is some version of a company that's running on its own, where it's so good. Obviously, you get to work when you want to work in it, and what you want to work on. I truly believe there's that version. I have a founder, CEO friend. He's an angel investor in us. His name is Ray Carvalho. He sold this company called Email Age to LexisNexis for almost $500 million. He owned 92% of it. He's like awesome. He's this Brazilian guy who's literally like, he works really hard when he wants to. But he was like, when I'd call him, and when my startup wasn't doing well at all and his was crushing it, and I'm like, Ray, like, hey, you missed our whatever weekly sync or bi-weekly sync. We had a monthly sync or something. He'd be like, yeah, I'm on a beach. Like, hey, I'm like snowboarding. I'm like, doing this bungee jumping. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how are you doing?
You're not working?
Like, how are you doing this? And that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, even now he's probably sailing somewhere. Like, he's like, he was just so good at create, and his company was amazing. Like, every function worked so good. He was great at hiring, empowering people, having the right amount of delegation and management and control on some areas, not on the others. Like, I don't know how he did it. And obviously he's like, he's not like the Elon guy, right? But still, he was very successful, built a huge brand, great company, right? This is awesome. But yeah, I totally believe that the book you're writing is very important and is going to be super valuable. And I believe that there's a version of some version there of me that's doing that.
Well, I'm only writing it because I am you too. So I like being creative too. But I'm working on the part of like, how do you design the business? So it's like, okay, right now I'm doing August where it runs without me. So I was like, okay, can things still grow without me? And there's like different tests to kind of get in there. But this podcast is not about me. It's about you, man. But thank you so much, by the way, for being open, transparent, sharing everything. I'm rooting for you. And not just winning business wise, but also freeing your time up as well. So yeah, I'll keep you in the loop with the new book stuff if you want.
I'm so excited, Wes, and congrats on the podcast, the books, and everything you've done. I'm super proud of you. I truly believe in the product-led piece. So excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
No worries.